Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and today I wanted to do a spring book tag, and there are like 4 or 5 or 6 spring book tags so I decided to do 2. So I've got one that's specifically about spring, and that is called the Put a Spring in Your Step book tag by Book Break. And the second one I'm going to be doing is the Houseplant book tag by Queen of Teen Fiction. So that one's more spring adjacent. So the first question of the Put a Spring in Your Step book tag is, how do you decorate your bookshelves? Specifically, she's talking about how do you decorate them for spring. But personally, I don't usually go by seasons except for Christmas and sometimes fall, but spring type stuff is the type of stuff I like to have all the time. So like these fake flowers that became available first in spring, I will be keeping them all the way through summer and probably into the fall. I also have a distinct love for potion bottles like these. I'll just take the camera on a tour because you're not going to be able to see around me. But I have lots of little potion bottles, and these guys that you can see back here are quite spring themed, but that's just the colors that they are. And so I did put them on their own little pastel shelf. They are Dan and Phil plushies, specifically of their pastel makeovers or whatever those are called. They used to have little flowers on their little crowns, but they had to get washed when the fire happened because they had ash all over them. So the little flowers were a little fragile, so they came off. But I still love my plushies. And they have to kind of prop up against each other or they will fall over. If you're not familiar, they're just some YouTubers, and I'm specifically attached to them because they were the first YouTubers I actually discovered when I got into YouTube, which was when I was 19. I'm now 22, and I got into it because I was super depressed at the time, and they really helped me out of that, so I'm very attached and want to get plushie versions of them because that's normal. And then I've also got a stuffed animal red panda because they're my favorite wild animal, and a teapot and a unicorn and a globe because I love all of those things. And I really like the look of bookshelves that are books intermixed with other knickknacks. And my bookshelves are pink year round because it's my favorite color. Question 2 is to recommend a book with beautiful descriptions of nature. And for that, I am destructing my bookshelves for this, and it's very distressing to me. But I wanted to show you the full cover because it's quite pretty. A Turn of Light by Julie E. Cerneda. This is a big fat book that plot-wise did not have to be this fat. And the in-between parts are full of the characters being adorable, which I really love, and also with descriptions of nature. There's also a lot of descriptions of the little town that she's in, but it's a very close to nature town, so even those are quite naturey. And our main character likes to go around barefoot as she is depicted on the cover, and she likes to run off to her favorite meadow that has all these flowers, and her best friend is a magical creature that lives outside. So it's very nature oriented, and it's such a slow book plot wise, but it's such a pleasant book that's very relaxing to go through, and you can just really enjoy the setting and the characters who are just totally adorable with each other. Honorable mentions include Howl's Moving Castle, which towards the end of the book, the main characters are running the flower shop and they harvest the flowers from a particularly beautiful spot, so there's nice descriptions of that. And in Uprooted, we get quite a few descriptions of the nearby forest. The third question, a book with a beautiful cover, could include any of those 3 books. I'm sure you've seen Uprooted's cover, but it is one of my favorites. That's it there. And all of these are pretty amazing. First of all, I love the jewel tones of the spines, and then the actual covers are also amazing. But basically everything that I keep on these shelves where I film, I put here both because they're my favorite books and also because of their beautiful spines. So I like all the spines and most all the covers of these books. Number 4 is spring is all about new starts, so it's a perfect time to start a new series. What would you recommend? And series are my favorite types of books because I really enjoy having extra time with the characters and the settings and not have to switch it up every book. So I really like the Warrior series, which is about cats who live in clans and they're quite tribal. There's 4 of them and they battle each other and make alliances with each other by turn, and It's a weird type of story. I wouldn't call it Gateway to Furries because they're not anthropomorphic, they're fully just cats. But I really like the way that Erin Hunter, the author, melds people thoughts, like the type of things you wouldn't expect a cat to think about, with very cattish instincts and ways of coming up with like their social structure. So that's really interesting and fun. And then a happy crazy series for spring would be the Fairyland series that I just showed you the covers of. If you want a freaking long series to keep you going for a long time, J.D. Robb's In Death series now has 50 books, and she comes out with a new one about twice a year. Those are mystery novels that I really like the police procedurals of, but I mostly read them for the subplots, i.e. the characters, which is a bunch of found family that you gradually add book by book, and a really, really sweet romantic relationship that the main character has. Question 5, it's almost time to start reading outside. Have you been brave enough yet? No, I have allergies. I went outside for like an hour and a half yesterday and I had a raging headache for all that late afternoon and evening. I don't know if I've said this on YouTube, I know I've said it on Twitter, but I went to the allergist last fall because I was having constant congestion headaches, and they poked me with 28 things to see if I was allergic to any of them. I was allergic to all 28 of them, so right now what's in the air is some beech and alder and juniper, but that doesn't matter because no matter what's in the air, it will make me sneeze and stuff up. Number 6, spring cleaning. What books are you unhauling? And I hardly ever unhaul. I would unhaul more because pre-fire I had a lot of books that I didn't really want, but because of the fire I just only bought back the books that I wanted. So I don't have much of any books to get rid of yet, even though I have done a couple of hauls since then. I just really like having books, and it doesn't bother me to have them stack up and even sit in piles on my floor. But I do have some that I am getting rid of because I've done writing them and they can go back to the library now. And because the library is closed, I have a very significant stack, which is kind of satisfying to look at, but also I would like to not have them in my house. Basically all of these, you can see some of the covers there, are books from the library that I finished, but I can't take them back because libraries are closed. And I also can't get any new ones from the library, but fortunately I had a ton checked out at once. So the ones that I have yet to read, which I'm going to use for question 7, which books are you going to replace them with, are 3 more books in the Pandora series, where a 13-year-old version of Pandora of Pandora's Box goes around putting all the evil she let out back in the box. And also this one, Tainted Moonlight by, they love to cover the author's name, by Erin Kelly. And this is another one I requested my library to buy because they didn't have it, because it's an indie book, and it is a werewolf book wherein the author says that we don't have those gross alpha male tropes that I hate so much, and lots of people hate so much, about werewolf fiction. So that was the Put a Spring in Your Step book tag by The Book Break. Of course, I'll be linking them below. Next we have the Houseplant book tag, which again was by Queen of Teen Fiction, who will also be linked below. And what she did is selected a bunch of her favorite types of houseplants and then put a book prompt with each of them. So the first question is Monstera, which is a plant that she evidently saw absolutely everywhere because it's a super popular houseplant, so she eventually got one. So the book prompt is, what is a book that you saw so much around that you just ended up reading because it was just everywhere? And to be honest, the more often I see something around, the more I find it off-putting, partially because I've had bad luck in the past with popular books, but sometimes a particular reviewer will say something about it that really piques my interest, so I will jump in and try it. And one book like that was Sorcery of Thorns, which I watched something by Reads with Rachel when she reviewed it, and the way she described it made me think I would really like it, and it turned out that it was actually really great. It has a really pretty cover, which is part of its mass appeal, but it is also about a librarian, sort of. It is about a girl who takes care of grimoires, which are magical books that contain magic in them, and in order to contain magic they have to be made with human body parts, or actually with any kind of creature's body parts, depending on what the spell is. And our main character also wields a sword that is very cool looking and made it onto the cover because it has rubies on the hilt. And there's just a really fun relationship between her and her love interest, and between the third character, who is the love interest demon. And at the time I read it, it reminded me so much of Howl's Moving Castle in a good way because of that triad and how they fought with each other but loved each other. And I just absolutely adore those relationships. The plot was not that great as far as development and making sense, but it was pretty good. But definitely the things I enjoyed most were the world building and the characters. Then we have cactuses, which are spiky and might hurt you, but you love them anyway. So what is a character that you love despite their flaws? And for that, I could bring up Howl again, because he is a flawed character in that he is a bit of a coward. He lies a lot, like so much. But for some reason, the way that he doesn't bother me nearly as much as other characters who have lying as a bad trait. I think a lot of it is because he's not the narrator, and it's a lot easier to like a secondary character like that than have to read through their perspective, because he is ultimately a really good guy. He just has to also lie to himself in order to get himself to do good things, because if he thinks too hard about doing a scary good thing, he'll chicken out. But he cares very, very deeply about the people he loves and will take care of them no matter what, even at risk to his own self, as long as he thinks it gets himself out of his own head. Then we have aloe vera, which takes care of you and comforts you when you've been hurt. And for that we have a favorite comfort read. And I tend to read Uprooted or the ACOMAF, whatever series. Just reread little bits of it that make me happy, which a lot of bits make me happy because most of those books is not plot, it's relational fluff, so I can open it pretty much anywhere and find a good relational fluff section. And I also tend to read Regency romances when I'm not feeling great because I don't have to turn my brain on, and also the In Death series by J.D. Robb because I get to go back to a comforting world, and because I've read them before I don't have to strain my brain trying to solve the mystery. I can just focus on the happy goopy feelings for everybody and the world they're in. Then we have number 4, succulent. Book trope that you actually love, because succulents are everywhere and very popular, but they're also very lovable. So a book trope that I love, I like enemies to lovers, very much depending. Like I like Darcy and Elizabeth, and I like the enemies to lovers that is in Spinning Silver. But there are some enemies to lovers that just aren't believable, and that they switch too fast, or they feel the need to have sex with each other while they're still enemies, and I don't get that at all. So I only like enemies to lovers when it's handled in a specific way. I really love friends to lovers, and I also really love I talked about this in a recent video, but where there is a bodyguard or a knight who is taking care of a monarch or someone like that, and those two fall in love, I really like that. Oh, and arranged marriage slash marriage of convenience, but only where both have agreed to it to take care of themselves. I like arranged marriages where the two people in the marriage have arranged it, not where it's been done by third parties, or where they've both agreed to make the best of it and be nice to each other and there's no expectation of sex, because that's rapey and no thank you. But where they're both like trying to help each other out because the other person would really be better off if they were married, or both of them would mutually be better off. I like that. Which is why I have the Duchess deal on reserve for my library, because it sounds like that is a mutually arranged marriage where it's for both of their benefit and neither of them expect it to be a regular marriage. That's by Tessa Dare, by the way, and I first heard about it from Jean Bookish Thoughts. Number 5 is Snake Plant. So what book character is like a snake and betrayed you? And for that I pulled the Gilded Wolves out of my pile, because there are multiple betrayal type things at the end of this book, and there's a lot of people hurting people, and I expected better from these characters, not to purposely try to hurt people they care about the most because they are hurting. Like, I lash out in temper when I am really hurting, but I don't specifically find the thing to say that will most destroy the other person's psyche and say that. because that is calculated and not okay. But some of the characters do that at the end of this book, and I don't appreciate that. But as I said in my full review last week, I think, still overall like the book and plan to read the next books in the series. Number 7 is Peace Lily, a book with a beautiful cover. And I already did some of those, so next I'll pull out this one. Oh no, they've fallen over again. But this is one by Nora Roberts, and it has a flower arbor on the front, which I love. And of course the spine is this pale pink, which is just... And it is a group of romance novellas that I haven't yet read, but I'm looking forward to when I need another comfort read. Number 8 is English Ivy, favorite fictional friendship group. And for that, I have to bring up In Death again because, as I said, that is a found family that keeps on growing as the books go on. And they are totally adorable together. But also, this series, the Deltora series, has a triad. And they are really sweet together. And they have kind of that trope where they each have skills that make up a good whole together. They each have different like questing skills. So one is a strong man, one is agile, one is fast and is their main puzzle solver. And even though they have disparate backgrounds and find each other annoying often, they really care about each other and take care of each other. And of course the Court of Dreams, which is the name for the friend group in the ACOMAF series, is very precious. And there's also a triad in A Turn of Light and the sequel that are very sweet characters and very nice to each other. Even though at times, once again, they drive each other kind of crazy. But I find that very entertaining. And also I think that the characters in this one will redeem themselves in the next, or at least the third book, and become one of my favorite fictional friend groups, because they also have that thing where all their disparate skills come together to make a very strong group, and when they're not being really snippy with each other, they take care of each other really well. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but number 9 is Erika Palm, a book that you think everyone should have on their shelves. And it's hard to find a book that like suits everyone's taste, because everyone has such vastly different tastes. So for that, I would pick a nonfiction book, because there is information that everyone should know, even if they don't find it entertaining specifically. But a lot of these books I'm going to mention, I think are written fairly entertainingly as well as informative. Basically any of the books that bring up history that has been sort of erased, like History versus Women, which is about the many women who've been erased from history just because they were women and men wanted to take credit for their accomplishments. There are a lot of books along that vein. I'll list some of them down in the description. One that I'm reading right now is Monster, She Wrote, which is about female horror and speculative fiction writers when horror was a relatively new genre in the 1800s. And we learn a lot more about male horror writers from those times than female horror writers, even though female writers were pretty much the base of the gothic fiction genre. Then we have number 10, Chinese Evergreen. What is your favorite fictional world? And there are a fair number of them. The one that I like to visit the most is probably Deltora, but the one that I would survive the best in, I think, is the Fairyland series, because I think the Fairyland series is one where the world kind of adjusts to the people in it, and I think it would give me a quest or an adventure that would suit my physical difficulties. I would get eaten in Deltora in 10 minutes flat. So, to the tagging of people, just so you know, whoever I tag, no pressure. If this isn't your thing, or if you don't do tags, or if you've just got too many tags to do, whatever. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I just like to shout out people because I feel nice when other people tag me. So, there are some people that I found fairly recently, and I found a bunch through Reads with Rachel's recent International Women's Day video. So I'm going to link that below because it has a lot of female creators, and it's a video full of them talking about their favorite female authors and their favorite female characters. So that's really cool, and I'm going to tag a few of the people that I found through that video. So that would be Princess of Castle Library, Seiji from The Artisan Geek, who also recently told YouTube that she has found out she's autistic, so she's a fellow autistic booktuber, which is really cool. And then India from Life is a Page Turner. Now, as I said, I found these people relatively recently, so only like a month and a half ago, but I've really enjoyed the stuff that they've put out since then, and I would love to be better booktube friends with them. So I tag them in both or either of these tags, whichever they prefer to do. Also, here is a montage of my houseplants. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!